Okay, so the next quick tiny topic we're going to look at is logical and physical addresses. This again most of you must be familiar with from computer organization, and also in one of the previous segments we discussed this. Most of your data is stored in your disk, right? Not everything is in your main memory. So in your disk again, you cannot randomly put things. It's not like randomly stashing all your clothes into your wardrobe. They need to be folded, and ideally they need to be folded and put in their respective places, although not many of us do that. So in a computer, whether you store your data in your CD, pen drive, hard disk, main memory, wherever it is, your data needs to be arranged in an organized manner, and those locations need to have some identifying mechanism, some address, some name, some ID, something, because that is how you will be able to reach and pick out whatever data you need. So most of your data, as I said, will generally be stored in your disk, your hard disk or hard drive, whatever you call it, and as and when something is required, that will be loaded onto the main memory and executed. So your data, when it is in the hard disk, there it has an address, memory address, that is called the logical address. And when it comes to your main memory, there actually it is stored in the RAM chips. There it has an address that is called the physical address. These are two different address spaces, two different memory entities. They have different size. They are made of different hardware components. So it is obvious that your logical address and physical address are not going to be the same all the time, right? So you need some mechanism that will help you to convert a logical address to a physical address, and that is what is your MMU, memory management unit. So most of the time when your CPU sends out a request for a specific memory location, the request is sent in terms of a logical address. So the classic example I will give you is when you are looking for a file or folder, you specify the path, right? You say /program files /snu /semester3 whatever, something like that. So that is on your disk. C: is your hard disk, right? You are not specifying 1010 or some address pertaining to your RAM. Whenever you look for something, whenever you give a path, whenever you are dealing with your file system, your directories on your computer, the address you are referring to is the logical address. So that is the address you give the computer and say, get me whatever data is present over here, or that is the address you give the computer and say, write this data onto this location. But when that reading or writing actually happens, the data has to be loaded into the main memory, and whatever reading or writing happens has to happen on the main memory location. Then it should be transferred back to the hard disk. Direct hard disk you cannot read or you cannot write directly onto a location on the hard disk, at least in the context of CPU and all. So your CPU will have to first understand that this logical address which this person is asking for, that data has been loaded onto my main memory, and in my vast main memory, which is so many gigabytes huge, this particular location is occupied by the data corresponding to this logical address. So if I give /program files /unit4 .pdf, that has been loaded onto my main memory and it is residing at the location 1010. That mapping my CPU needs to be able to understand so that it can go to the main memory and pick up that data. So that mapping is done by the memory management unit. It takes the logical address and returns my corresponding physical address. And how does it do that? So let's say it takes the logical address 346. Again, when I said logical address, I spoke in terms of path, C:, and all. But inside a computer, everything is stored in terms of numbers. You don't need me to tell you that. So whatever you give in terms of words, that will be translated to a number first. A number pertaining to the logical address. A number or a vector, usually a number. Yeah. So that number, 346 for example, let's say it is in some system, 346 represents your path, C:/ program files /unit4 or whatever. So how that path is translated to 346, not our headache. for the purposes of this course. You have the logical address as a number. The CPU gives that to the memory management unit. The memory management unit has something called the relocation register. So that has something like an how do I call it, a scaling, or not exactly scaling, something like an increment or a limit value. So it adds that to your logical address and it gives you your physical address. So let's say the limit value here is 14,000, then it will add that to your 346 and it will take you to location 14346 in your memory, which is where the data you are looking for will be stored. So how do we know that the data will be stored there? How do we know that this value has to be 14,000? All that is beyond the scope of this course. We will not be going into all of that. What we're trying to understand in this unit is various aspects of memory, various problems which arise when dealing with memory, and various things which the OS is overseeing to make sure memory access happens smoothly. So one among those is the problem of mapping a logical address to a physical address. That is done by means of this component called the memory management unit. That's done by taking the logical address, adding that to this limit value, and hence giving you the physical address. So that amount of understanding, in my opinion, is sufficient for the purposes of this course in this context.